Hi, my name is Trainmaster04, and welcome to the new Lionel 2020 Volume 1 catalog, where I'll be doing a brief review through both the normal scale built-to-order side as well as the traditional side of this catalog, all in one video. I know in the post that I made a few days ago, I said I was going to do 2 parts, but in actuality, the catalog online is all combined into one instead of 2 separate catalogs. So, without further ado, let's get started. So first up, as many of you probably have already found out through the leak, which has possibly been confirmed that Lionel actually did leak this out on their own to get everybody hyped up over it, and that is a new Lionel Legacy Command System, otherwise known as the Cab 3 and Cab 3 Base app. Now, overall, I'm actually quite excited about this in the sense of Lionel is finally, after over 10 years, is finally updating their legacy command system. And in all honesty, I think this would be a great feature for major layouts. I've seen a lot of people go towards the electronic side of controlling trains, especially large layouts such as clubs and things like that. And I've noticed really that is going towards the direction because, one, it is simple to go and buy a $30 smartphone, download the app easily, and being able to just operate your trains anywhere and not have to worry about accidentally dropping a remote control and possibly running out of battery. Now, personally, I also think this is going to be a bit of a hassle in the sense that having an app itself is going to be challenging, to say the least, because really, with the legacy controller, which everybody has gotten used to and really enjoys, and also compared to the MTH DCS system, is the sense of being able to easily maintain your locomotive and actually physically feel what it is doing. Such as the whistle, you can easily quill with it, whereas with the app, you're just simply taking either a pen with a rubber end, or even with your finger and being able to somewhat quill the whistle itself. But overall, I'm actually quite excited about this, and I'm actually quite excited to see what this thing can do in person once it comes out. Moving on, as you can see, the base itself is primarily where the heart of things is, where you have push buttons here for both the Wi-Fi connection, TMCC connection for a Cab 2 or Cab 1L, which means if you have a original legacy command system or even a TMCC Cab 1L, you can easily connect it to this base, ditch your old base, put normal batteries in the remote, and basically run everything off of this one base. Also, updates are going to be a whole lot better, as you can see right here with this cogwheel button. And really, I think that's going to be a whole lot easier for us to get better updates, because if it comes via an update through the app connected to the base, then you'll be able to go and wirelessly do updates like that, which in the past, when I've updated my legacy base and controller, I either had to wait for Lionel to go and ship me a new module, or even worse, having to go and find the correct wire, hook it up to my Microsoft computer, and be able to actually go and do the update manually. So if this is actually going to be a wireless system, I think this is going to be a great innovation. Other things, we have an indicator light depending on what type of locomotive you're running it under, and also 3 switches, which I think is a little odd, but is understandable right there, which in this case shows the Wi-Fi connection, pairing for Bluetooth, and for normal legacy locomotives that does not use Bluetooth. And also on the back here you can see we have what looks to be similar to the normal legacy back of a base, where you have except you have this time a hardwire plug-in. Here's your ground wire, master on and off switch, which is nice, and also a few other ports that are similar to the legacy, such as a module, so that you can still use your older legacy modules and plug them in easily. LCS ports, so that you can easily connect to your LCS devices, and then also USB port, which I also have a suspicion that this is going to be part of the upgrading system, where you'll go take a normal computer, plug in a USB drive, or possibly even something else, download it, and be done. Now, something else a lot of people have been asking is Lionel going to go and continue to produce legacy normal cab 2 remote controls and bases? I think, honestly, that is going to be a bit of a toss-up depending on how this system goes well and how it is accepted. I think they will keep a limited number in the sense of those who need repair work or dealers who ask for them because of that same reason or for just in general use. But since they are making the Legacy Cab 1L remote, not with the base, I'm guessing they are, like everybody has suspected, Lionel is trying to get away from the extra manufacturing cost and shipping cost with the legacy system and is trying to go towards a wireless system and make cutting corners and, well, essentially gaining more money. And so I think what Lionel's going to do is basically, since the Legacy Cab 2 system has been out for such a long enough time, everybody by this point in time either has it, and if they don't, they can easily get into it by either finding an old used one or just simply starting off fresh with the Cab 3 system. And then if they want a physical remote, then they can go and get the Cab 1L, which honestly I think is nice that they're still doing that in the sense of, hey, my legacy remote is broken, can't get another one, here's a replacement for this one time only, and if you have the Cab 3, then okay. But moving on, the app itself, as you can see, it is a multi-purpose app this time. It is a combination of both the Line Chief app with also the iCab app, which this really reminds me of in the sense of placement and also a few of the other features, which, like I said earlier, I am not too completely sold on the quillable whistle feature since, one, you don't get that physical feeling of the spring on the whistle button on the Legacy remote, so I'm not completely sold on that. But then again, a lot of people are probably the same way, and it'll probably won't get fully accepted until this app as well as the base are out to the public and really get their run-in time, really. On to locomotives. As you know, and probably have seen on the internet, or if you were at the Fall York Train Show, Lionel has released a new Vision Line locomotive for this year. Last year was the GS locomotives. No, excuse me, that was 2020. Years fly by. Last year was the Santa Fe 3000, which unfortunately I've had to send mine back. Talk about that later. But this year they are coming out with a retooled Class A. Now, if I remember correctly, the last time they made a Class A in a legacy form would have been the Line Master version, which was a great model. It had whistle steam, great sound, and for a large locomotive of its size, it was even able to run on 036 curves, which honestly is something that I would have bought, but I didn't get to it at the time. So seeing these new Class A's coming back to life and in a full-scale form, and then on top of that, Vision Line is actually quite something. So overall, they are actually offering quite a lot for these engines, and overall, I think they're going to go well, but it's going to depend on who is a bigger N&W fan, so to speak, and wanting to get whatever they want. So first up, as everybody knew and expected, Lionel is producing the 1218, which is the sole surviving Class A, if I remember correctly, and for a retail price of $2,100. I think that is not too bad, considering that the Vision Line 210-2s, they were priced at an MSRP of $2,500. So I think since this locomotive is a little bit smaller, has a little bit more electronics compared to the 3000s, and also what we have here, I think is roughly justified. And also since really the only upside of pre-ordering through Lionel themselves would be getting the locomotive sooner, since they don't have to be shipped to a dealer and then to you directly. So really, I think these locomotives will sell well in the sense of being marketed down. Now, for features, these locomotives are going to have to run an 072, no figure, and also they said that these locomotives are going to have whistle steam, safety valve, stereo sounds inside, so speaker and locomotive and tender, which is great. And I've heard the ones in the 3000s, which is first for them, and they are great as well. And then the special feature that everybody was questioning about, and I've seen some people get a bit disappointed, is with the base 3 and cab 3 system, you are now able to go and use a 4-digit addressing system. Now, something in the leak that everybody was questioning was, is this locomotive going to be the only locomotive with this feature? No, that was an error actually. The corrected answer is actually this is going to be the first locomotive, either Legacy and Vision line, to have the 4-digit addressing system. So say I had this locomotive, or any of the new Legacy locomotives, which we'll get to in a minute, has a standard 4-digit number. So in this case, 1218, I want to program it into my cab 3 system. Instead of having to choose 2 digits, say what Lionel has always said for years, take the 2 last digits of the locomotive, put them in, and that's how you remember it. Well, as we have all found out, that could be a bit difficult because there are many locomotives that have similar last 2-digit numbers, and then you got to get a bit creative. But this time, it has been finally resolved to where you can now put in the full 4-digit number of the cab, so that if you want to have this locomotive, put in the road number and then move on. Now, moving on to other locomotives, you can see Lionel, besides offering the 1218, they're offering a Norfolk Southern Excursion Pack for, let's see, $900, which in my opinion is a little bit harsh considering it is a 4-pack, but prices are going up, and unfortunately that is where it's going to go. But moving on to locomotives, Lionel is also going a bit above and beyond in the sense of different details with these Class A's. For example, number 1238 is going to be a cast pilot with an aftercooler, roller bearing rods which are blackened, and then also a Class A tender with extensions. So that is a nice feature. And then right below that, they are offering the prototype, number 1200 herself, with a slat pilot, which I think is really nice. Standard rods, which are supposed to be polished, but it looks like in the graphics it's darkened. The Y3 style tender, which I think is actually quite interesting compared to a Class A. A Commonwealth tender trucks, and multi-bearing crossheads. So Lionel overall is going above and beyond trying to get these locomotives out there and give them enough type of prototypical options for the consumer. On the next page, we have yet even more, 5 more as a matter of fact, starting with 1218, similar to the prototype, standard blackened rods, Y3 tender, Commonwealth trucks, and another slat pilot. And then we get down to 1211, which is an interesting configuration. It is a post-World War II version with a cast pilot without an aftercooler, standard rods, which are also blackened, a Class A tender with a Commonwealth trucks, which honestly I think is the nicest, as well as the 1218 version, as it being the one that we all think of as a Class A. Moving up, 1222 is an LCCA exclusive, so if you are part of the Lionel Collectors Club of America, you'll have this exclusive option to be able to pre-order or purchase this locomotive if there are any available later. And this one, similar to the one below it, has a cast pilot, with an aftercooler, roller bearing rods, blackened, and the normal Class A tender with an extension. And then for a long time, Lionel is bringing back a locomotive in the pilot paint scheme, which really has been quite some time. The last time would have been the Strasbourg number 90 from last year's catalog, and it is actually quite refreshing to see how much detail separately applied and molded in these locomotives will have, since here you can see all the yellow parts are going to be separately applied brass. So in this case, this locomotive is going to have quite a bit of it. And for this one, it's going to be another standard Class A cast pilot, standard rods, Class A Commonwealth trucks, and then fantasy passenger scheme. That one I think that is actually a typo since this is a pilot version. And then finally at the top, 1201, which is a very, very stunning locomotive, if I can go and say so. And honestly, I think this locomotive could be a bit better if Lionel did go and change it up a little bit and put some semi-streamlined skirting along underneath the running boards like the NNWJs and also their streamlined 482s. But choosers can't be beggars, so or beggars can't be choosers, excuse me. But I think this is a really stunning one, and I think it'll be going out quite well, considering that it has the famous Norfolk and Western maroon and gold stripe that is famous on the 611. Now, hopefully this time around, Lionel will go and get the color correct, and it won't be more of a bright reddish orange. Anyway, more Vision Line items besides locomotives is something a little bit off-center, I think, considering how Lionel usually stays with a theme when they produce a new Vision Line locomotive, and this time they are producing Vision Line horse cars. I honestly never thought of this, but it makes sense after reading the history over here, but horse cars would make pretty much sense to be a item that would be unique, and I've heard that a lot of people actually do like these horse cars and put them on their passenger trains, specifically in brass. So seeing this coming into the lower, so to speak, lower end market for the normal consumer is actually quite interesting. And the MSRP price for one of these is going to be right at $370. And as you can see, Lionel is making a huge offering of these in different paint schemes, such as Pennsy, Santa Fe, and our Railway Express Agency, which I honestly am tempted to get, and then a Southern Pacific down below in a Pullman Green, Louisville, Nashville, and a Canadian Pacific. Now, these cars will have sounds and will have specific sounds such as horses neighing and normal freight sounds like that. So I think this will be quite an interesting car once they come out. Now, similar to the last catalog, Lionel is also releasing another set series of stock cars. This time, instead of it being cows like the last time, these will be pig stock cars. So they'll have the normal sounds such as livestock, in this case pigs, normal clickety-clack, wheel squealing, and then one of the cars having the electronics within it, having an electrocoupler at the end. Now, overall, I'm also very tempted to get the Santa Fe versions as, well, I'm a Santa Fe buff, and I like anything Santa Fe, and also being I live in Santa Fe territory, and those actually look very nice, but overall, I think these will also sell quite well, since a lot of people like to collect livestock cars, especially those who are, say, modeling on Santa Fe in cattle country, or in this case, pig or swine country. So I think these will do quite well. Anyway, now getting back to locomotives themselves and away from Vision Line. As you may have already expected, Lionel is going to release, and even more throughout this catalog, some more MTH-tooled locomotives that they bought while MTH was downsizing. So in this case, Lionel is offering the humongous Santa Fe 5011 class Texas type locomotive 210-4s in MTH's tooling. And as you can see, they are offering quite a wide variety of them, both prototypical with 5011 herself and 5022, and then some fantasy paint schemes on the other side. Honestly, I think these are going to be good sellers as well, specifically the prototypical and the black bonnet, as the recent black bonnet of both the Santa Fe 3751 class and the 3000 class being spot on and gorgeous, and also because everybody, why not, likes the black bonnet for its red, yellow, and black paint scheme. So I think those will sell well. For the others, not too very much, because for two reasons. One, it really kind of does not fit too terribly well, or in my opinion, having a standard 210-4, the USRA version, with the Santa Fe 5000 class, especially the Pennsy. Don't get me wrong, I love Lionel going and taking these popular locomotives or popular paint schemes and putting them on these engines. The only issue is honestly, Santa Fe locomotives have a specific look that really makes them popular, and that specific look looks best when it comes with the appropriate Santa Fe tender that came with the prototype. So I think out of the fantasy paint schemes, I think the two that will best sell would be the Black Bonnet and the Kansas City Southern with the War Bonds, because that is just a very nice tender. Now, overall, the second reason why I think the fantasy paint schemes won't go too well, besides the Black Bonnet, is because Lionel released 210-4s not too long ago, and those had these same paint schemes minus the Pensy. So I think it is a bit of a conflicting issue there. But anyway, for the MSRP price, these are a little bit higher than I expected. $17.50 for one of these locomotives, which is equipped with the latest legacy technology, smoking whistle, and also fan-driven smoke. And on top of that, interchangeable smokestacks from your standard smokestack to an extension, which is typical on most of the Santa Fe locomotives that they've been producing, besides some of their lower end stuff and the 3751 class. So I'm highly tempted and thinking about doing a pre-order for the Black Bonnet, but I am not totally for sure, as I do have a PS2 MTH version of the 5011 class in number 5012. So I might have to make a few sales just to get this one locomotive. And more reissues coming back to the spotlight for a long time now, actually, is the early Lima-built Berkshires in a variety of popular road names, such as Boston and Albany. Excuse me, I may have pronounced that wrong. And these too will have fan-driven smoke unit as usual, road-specific details since these were used across a lot of railroads, and whistle steam, which is, well, let's just face it, is the current standard. And as you can see, they are going to have three different versions. One with the Alesco feed water heater, which is my favorite. The Coffin feed water heater, which is unique, none to say the least. And then without either the Alesco or the Coffin feed water heater, which looks a little bit awkward to me, but these locomotives are unique nonetheless. And for, let's see, what is it? $1,600, that is not actually a bad price for a Berkshire. I will say I would like to see them a little bit lower, considering you would pay that same price or maybe $100 more for a Northern. So comparing a Berkshire to a Northern with similar features but still a smaller locomotive, I think that is pushing the envelope just a little bit, but I think is just about manageable. And then some more reissues, which is actually quite more recent. Atlantics, more smaller Atlantics, and more road names with whistle steam roads and road-specific details. And this time, they are producing them at a price tag of $900. A little bit more expensive than the last time, if I remember correctly, but they are making a whole lot more unique road names, such as the Boston and Maine, Missouri Pacific Lines, New Haven, New York Central, Southern, and the Crescent Limited green paint scheme, which I love, and also the Wabash. Now, these locomotives, I think, will be a little bit more of a standard locomotive like the H-10s did when they came out in 2018, because, well, it's a small locomotive and everybody likes the big stuff, which I agree and I do too, but I think these locomotives will do decently for two reasons. One, they're a small locomotive and not everybody can afford a large locomotive or being able to run them. And also two, these also come with interesting wooden side passenger cars later on in the catalog. Now, I also do think they will not do quite as well as Lionel would hope because, well, Lionel just released these Atlantics very similar in Southern Pacific, Union Pacific, and a few other road names not too long ago. So I think this is more of a late-coming reissue of the Atlantics and more road names that Lionel realized, oh, we may want to make some more, and we can tie them in with more products. More tooling, more new tooling, I should say, and these are 060s from MTH. I'm actually quite surprised Lionel actually bought these and are actually making these, because they really have been quite popular with the Penske's B6, but then again, you can only go so far with the B6 tooling, so I guess this is a bit of a nice refreshing look onto the 060 from Lionel themselves. And as you can see, a whole slew of road names being offered in a bit more affordable price of $800 with a wired tether, normal standard smoke and sound, and also one interesting locomotive I think that I like is the Strasbourg number 31. Now, I've seen on the OGR forum a few people complaining about it because of the tenders being incorrect. Honestly, I think this either will be something talked about in the Ryan and Dave show that will be going on later today about them switching it up, or possibly later in the future once they get some more feedback on these. But for the meantime, I think these will sell well since they are yet small locomotives, new tooling, and also because it will fit anybody's needs in general with both the size and road name. 040s. So these locomotives were first offered in conventional and then later were upgraded to Line Chief Plus. Yes, Line Chief Plus, and now they're finally making their way into the big leagues of having legacy electronics put in them. So this time, from the Line Chief side of things, you only had standard manual couplers and simple little electronics within the tender and locomotive. Well, this time they are getting a major upgrade, such as being tooled to where they have scale proportion, which they already were, fan-driven smoke, which they didn't have in the first place, a wireless drawbar, which is a great addition since these locomotives have such a small electrical footprint, and then also rear and front electrocouplers so that you can use these little Husky A5s in your yards and still have the ability to couple and uncouple cars. And for the price tag, I think is not too bad. $700, a little bit more than a Line Chief version, but considering how they're going about $500 online, such as eBay or on the used market, I think the $200 difference compared the two for legacy electronics and all the better stuff, I think that is quite reasonable. And then getting into the legacy diesels, we have some new tooling from MTH, the Alco RS27. Honestly, I'm not a big diesel fan, so I do not know much about them, but as you can see, there is a whole lot of color and various versions, such as Conrail down the bottom, an Alco version, Penn Central, which I think will be quite popular, a Chicago Northwestern, same, Sioux, and a Green Bay and Western. And for the price tag of $600 for a moderately sized 036 locomotive, I think that is about the average. More retooled from MTH, the SW1. I think these switchers will go quite nicely, as well as everybody needs a switcher, and especially, why not? And also, as you can see, a few of these have specific road details, such as the Burlington Northern having a strobe light, if my screen would work, or load in, there we go, has a strobe light over the cab, and for $550, maybe a little bit high considering the size of these locomotives, but I think considering these are new tooling, I think it'll be just fine. ES44ACs, why not? Because we don't have enough of them. But as you can see, the theme really through this catalog is new tooling, reissues, and beautiful what-if and interesting paint schemes, such as the BNSF 25th anniversary locomotive, which I know a lot of people who do not like MTH have been really wanting to get this in Lionel and asking Lionel to do this, so I guess better late than never for Lionel to go and bring them in. And in this case, they are offering in most of these paint schemes either a 2 units, in this case for the 25th, and a non-powered unit. And as you can see, Lionel is offering a huge amount from Illinois Central, BNSF, BC Rail, and just so much more. And also, they're getting into more of the armed forces. As you can see here, Canadian National celebrating veterans, and also U.S. Armed Forces, which is very nice. I like that. And then they're also reissuing some SD40s-2 from the TMCC era, such as the Union Pacific Desert Victory locomotive. I know this locomotive was wanted because some people weren't able to get the TMCC version who either served or wanted to salute to our veterans, which I do as well. And in this case, finally getting an upgrade into the Legacy Limelight. But as you can see, yet again, Lionel is going crazy with the different type of paint schemes. Everything from your standard Burlington Northern and both the normal green with pumpkin orange and black nose, and then also the Spirit of 76, which was also quite popular, to heritage units such as the Mirsk or the Savage. And then getting into some bigger locomotives, SD90 Max. And as I said earlier, Lionel is really getting into the veteran swing of things. And as you can see right here, they really have hit the ball with the Canadian Pacific Heritage Fleet of veterans. From everything from Army Green, Desert Tan, to various other paint schemes. If you want to make a military train, Lionel has got you covered in this sense. And besides military, Lionel is also offering some more interesting locomotives in the SD90 series, such as Canadian Pacific and their beautiful silver, yellow, and dark maroon brown paint scheme, an electromotive demonstrating unit, a Rio Grande, which we haven't seen in quite some time, and then also a patch locomotive, which was a former UP, now patched into a Norfolk Southern. And here is something a lot of people were asking for as well, F40PHs. It has been a while, I think about 5 or 6 years since Lionel did another release of these, and since Amtrak has celebrated an anniversary recently, it is fitting that they would go and bring these locomotives out from the mothball shelves, so to speak, and make them into a modern locomotive. So as you can see, Lionel is offering the standard famous colors such as the Phase 4, 5, and 3 paint schemes, a veterans unit that has come in today, and fleet cars to pull right behind them. And excuse me, I forgot to go the price tag. For these, $630 is your price tag for one of these, which I think is alright. And then also they're offering different version of the F40s. In this case, they're creating a CSX transportation locomotive and extra passenger cars down below for the same price. And I think is actually quite nice for this, especially in the B&O paint scheme. A locomotive for the ski train, which in this case, these passenger cars have been already released before. And I think, if I remember correctly, yes, they should be out in dealers right now since they have a 21 starting product number. So for those of you who want to have a different type of locomotive pulling your ski train, you now can with an F40PH. And then the F40PH or any Amtrak train would not be complete unless you had a F40 cabbage unit. In this case, Lionel is also offering these in the similar paint schemes in the standard one, and these themselves do have a cheaper price tag of $500 and do have actual electronics in them, such as cab unit sounds, horn, bell, lights, and also a few interior details. Now, okay. And then now moving on from continuing in the F series, so to speak, Lionel is also offering F7 and F9 units in both single and in a few sets. In this case, I'm really liking the Santa Fe F7 AA set, which for $1,200 I think is a little bit steep, but considering that both A units are powered, I think that is not too bad of a deal, especially since having 4 motors in total is not that bad. That is not too shabby for power. But besides Santa Fe, Lehigh Valley, Sioux, SP in their Daylight, which I think is going to be popular. UP, same with there as well. And then into the F9s, we have a beautiful Aberdeen, Carolina, and Western with matching passenger cars down below, and a Reading and Northern A-B set. Now, these locomotives being the F7s were $1,200. These will be $1149.99. So, a little bit cheaper. And then, as I was saying about sets, Lionel is also offering an F7 Bessemer and Lake Erie set, both in or if you want both in a set and AB configuration only. If you want the AB only, it is $1149.99. And if you want the set, which comes with 12 Bessemer and Lake Erie and Erie ore cars, in this case there being 12 plus a bay window caboose, an AB consist for a surprising price of $1,600. Honestly, I would have figured this would have been maybe towards the $1,800 range maybe a little bit less in that area. But for $1,600 plus the usual discount you would get from a dealer, I think that is not too bad. And then another interesting set is this, the Union Rocket Booster Train set. I really think Lionel is trying to reach out in the sense of getting the hobbyist involved with a train set and being a little bit creative by creating this set. So in this case, you have 6 boxcars and 5 rocket booster cars themselves, which, as you can see, covered, and when they are uncovered, they produce this 30-inch tall rocket model, which could be either used in somebody's Area 51 section, NASA section on their layout, or just for the fun of it, just passing through a neighboring town and be stored in a yard for a period of time. For the price of this, you can get it for $1,700. Now this, I can agree with the price for, since you are getting a locomotive and a huge train, considering on what Lionel has done in the past, where you get maybe 3 standard scale cars and then a caboose and then a locomotive, and that's it for the same price. So I think Lionel's doing pretty good. Norfolk Southern 40th anniversary set, I'm alright with. I do love the Norfolk Southern heritage paint scheme with the 40th anniversary symbol here. $1,300, not bad. And then an SW1 set, the Black River and Western Excursion set, for $1,100. I can see that going quite well for a standard little set on somebody's layout. And then here are the wood-sided passenger cars in 2 packs that I was talking about earlier. Now these yet again are MTH-tooled. We first saw them in the Volume 2 catalog last year with the Strasbourg number 90. But this time, Lionel is offering yet even more versions, such as a maintenance away with a beautiful gray version. I really do like the red awning on the observation car. For a price tag of $450 per 2-pack, I think that is a little bit steep, considering it would be about $1,500 or less when you have all 3 packs. So if you want to go and spend your money all on one thing, this might not be it. Next, we have a NYCNHR version, New York Central and Hudson River, which I think is nice in that deep maroon. Southern in the green, which would go nicely with the Atlantics. And also a Wabash in the beautiful blue that they are well known for, which would also go well with the Wabash Atlantic earlier on. And then something interesting that I'm also interested in, as it being a one-off interesting piece, is a chapel car. As I was reading the history over here, which it makes sense, during the wild era of the United States, more specifically the late 19th century, early to mid 20th century, the Great Revival came through the United States, and a lot of people took decommissioned wood-sided passenger cars and would go and convert them into basically a chapel on wheels, which I thought was quite interesting, since, well, it's a piece of history that not a lot of people know about. Coal cars, and in even more road names. 2 packs again, N&W Pensy, Pennsylvania Coal and Coke Company, for $200, $100 a pop. I think a little bit steep, but right there on the borderline. And then also something interesting right here, which I've never seen before, Bureau of Mines 18-inch passenger car 2-pack for $500. So about $250 per car. I thought that's interesting as well, especially for somebody who has a Virginian-styled layout for the Norfolk and Western and has a whole lot of coal mines modeled on it. I think those would go quite well, considering to give it a little bit more realism and action. Call the big man out. Yep, you need a train to get to there. More MTH-tooled cars, coal cars, everybody needs that. Have detachable hoods, detachable loads, which is quite nice. Graffitied ones, which Lionel's gotten really into at this time. Hopefully none of these don't get taken off, considering that the last time on the genset switchers, they had to take them off due to some type of lawsuit going on with that. Husky stacks with dual containers, standard stuff, and then with graffiti, which I think hopefully they'll be able to be produced. More illuminated flag cars. In this case, we have the 25th anniversary and a few other veteran stuff, which would go well with some of the previous veterans locomotives. end of door box cars, which this time they are actually producing them with doors that actually open at the end. And for $115, I think that is a little bit too high, but considering that they do have open ends this time, might justify it a little bit. Bobber cabooses, which I'm actually quite excited about because I do like a good bobber, especially in a Santa Fe, but unfortunately they don't have it this time. But I am drawn to the Strasbourg version, which I probably will make my pre-order with one of those in it. For $120, I hope these are considered the premier versions instead of the Rail King versions, because if it is, I think I'd rather go and wait on eBay and get one for a whole lot less than going and paying a pre-order price of $120. Bay window cabooses, similar to the flag cars, match the locomotives that you have in the previous page, especially the 25th anniversary. More rotary gondolas, which actually these aren't any new because and are instead reissues because they have the old 6- product number. So if anybody you collect these, beware the numbers you may get you probably already have. Or cars in a 6-pack configuration. Standard O cars, which are again reissues from the few catalogs back. More reissues. And then we get into the traditional O scale stuff. So, as before, Line Chief app, Line Chief Plus, or the usual chart that compares Line Chief Plus, Line Chief Plus 2.0. And then we get into some more reissues, which I think is exciting, especially since these are upgraded stuff. Line Chief Plus 2.0, USRA Light Pacifics. These were last reissued in the 2014 area when Lionel first introduced the Line Chief Plus line, so I think these are going to go and sell quite well, especially these having quite beautiful paint schemes, such as the Denver Rio Grande with the green boiler, Baltimore and Ohio, Lehigh Valley, and the beautiful silver and red paint scheme, and then a semi-scale version for those who cannot afford nor run the full-scale version, the Reading in Northern $425. And for a price tag of $650, that's not too bad. More reissues of the semi-scale Hudson, and as I said in the last catalog, I am still surprised. I'm still iffy on the Lionel Line 773, considering this being a different tooling to the original 1950 version. GP20s, why not? MTH tooling, yet again, both the Genesis and Doodlebugs, which I was actually quite surprised, and I'm very also drawn towards the Line Chief Plus 2.0 Santa Fe War Bonnet Doodlebug, considering one, it's $400, and two, it is just a unique looking item for anybody who has a commuter train going around their layout. For the Genesis series, here you can see we have various Amtrak anniversaries, such as the Phase 3 Pepsi-Cola paint scheme, the 50th anniversary, and various different versions, such as the Midnight Blue, Phase 6, and Phase 1 paint scheme, which for $550, that's not too bad. Something I didn't expect on this is more Genesis, for one thing, in the standard Amtrak colors, so that you can have something like that, but down at the bottom, a Line Chief Plus 2.0 set with Amfleet cars. I think this set, even the scale model railroader, will actually go and buy, considering that these themselves, well, one, the affordability at $1,000 even, having 3 passenger cars, basically, and then the locomotive itself having semi-scale features, which that's alright, will fit anywhere on your layout, and also it basically has Team CC. So I think the Genesis class itself will go quite well, considering that the Rail King version, which these are tooled off of, went quite well for many years. And since they are having Amfleet, semi-scale Amfleet cars, I think this set will go quite well. Now, to add on to the set, you can also get some more cars with either the cab, as you can see right here, which also have the correct lights on top of the roof, lighting, and also other features. And for $400, I think that is a little bit too steep, considering that these are the traditional semi-scale version. But since they are new tooled passenger cars, I think Lionel's having to justify that just a little bit and having to raise the price just to cover their loss of paying for the new tooling. A new set that I'm also interested in, not completely sold, is the Pennsylvania S2 Lion Chief Plus 2.0 set. Not a Lion Chief set, with a baby Rail King tooled turbine. Now, I think this set is going to do well, considering those who want an S2 but don't have the money to buy the legacy version not too long ago, and also since it has a price tag of $750. Except, and I've already seen the complaints coming in on the OGR forum, and that is the S2 itself. It is a great, MTH did a great job on making the tooling for this, and it has done quite well in both the Rail King world. Except, one, it is smaller than the standard post-war locomotive, if I remember correctly, and two, it just looks squished. The front end and the back end just look like they were pushed in together, and you get this kind of snub-nosed S2, which I understand that is had to happen because, well, in order to get the locomotive to go around 036 curves, you got to go and shorten something. So I think this set will do well. I think it will be more of a set where people will wait until it comes out and see how the locomotive looks. But besides that, the rolling stock also does look well. You have a porthole caboose, hopper, two-bay hopper, a flatbed with a separately applied Pennsy girder bridge, and then a nice looking box car to go along with it. And for $750, not too bad. More sets that we've seen in the past, such as the Pennsylvania Limited and the nickel plate Berkshire Fast Freight set, which I honestly thought would have done better, but honestly not. Thomas and Friends stuff, standard stuff there. Toy Stories, Pixar, Frozen. John Deere stuff I have seen in my hobby shop has gone quite well, considering it being a more interactive set, which is something I've noticed with Lionel, such as the Hogwarts Express. They've added more details, which then again a kid's not going to really notice unless, well, they are a rare breed of child, so to speak, and notice every little detail, such as I was, and also adding sound into the cars instead of into the locomotives, and then you adding on the car. So I think that is quite nice. More Halloween stuff, which I've seen is actually gone quite popular in the community, considering everybody wants to get something that is Halloween related or has a Halloween related themed layout. And another MTH-tooled building, which I actually haven't seen in some time, is the Depot Transfer Station. In this case, it is the Grimm's Depot Transfer Station. Hat off to you, hat off to the person who came up with that name. That was actually quite creative. A Halloween Doodlebug, which actually looks quite good with that pumpkin orange and black safety striping on the nose. If it was in another paint scheme besides Halloween, but it had that, I would get that. It is very nice, especially in a Burlington Northern green. I think that would have been very nice. More standard reissued buildings, such as the Witch House. And then we come to a new set that I completely forgot about, a NASA set. And coming back from the shelf of mothballs is the famous, which was first introduced in the post-war era, the rocket launch pad for $430. It has a legacy command control system, realistic sound effects, plug and play, stamped metal base, cannon motor, motorized gantry train, so you don't have to go and physically move the crane up and down, a smoke unit for the rocket launching effect, which why not, lights to go with it, and a rocket launching feature to go with it. Honestly, I think that'll go quite well, considering those who have the post-war version wants to add on to it, say, have a competing rocket launching place, such as NASA versus SpaceX, something like that, maybe, will probably go quite well. For the beer heads, we also have more beer cars and also their very own beer locomotive in Budweiser, which I think is actually quite nice. Though I do not drink beer, I just say that in the sense of the color of the reefers. Billboards, beer cars, and then this. This is something that I am on the fence with, in the sense of getting it or spending it on something a little bigger. And it is the Great Locomotive Chase Deluxe Line Chief set. So in 2019, Lionel had the great idea of getting the general, or taking the general mold and creating a 119 in Jupiter and producing it into one set and having them come head to head. Well, Lionel is redoing that, as you can see, with the General, the actual General, which is in the green, and then the Texas, for a set with a grand total of $600. And it does have the Bluetooth 5.0 system and the universal remote, so you can run both of them together under one remote. I am excited about this, considering I just got my 160th anniversary boxcar of the Great Locomotive Chase, which you can go and check out the video in my YouTube channel under episode 3 of my model railroading blog. Honestly, I think this set will go quite well for the history buff. It went very well for the transcontinental set, so I think these will be a grand hit. And then more MTH tooling is the 19th century freight cars. Lionel is offering a separately sold Western Atlantic freight expansion set, which come for $220, which I probably would get, because why not? And then let me see the set. Yeah, it just comes with the 2 locomotives and remote. So I think this will be an exciting set. I probably would get it just in the fact I think honestly it would be a great review. Let me know in the comment section, and yeah. New starter set I think is a nice little addition to it, since you always need a new starter set to keep things going. Standard starter sets we've seen in the past. And then also this, a starter set with graffiti. I think it is a great innovation in the sense of trying to get kids into giving them things that they see in modern day, especially myself. The only problem that I have with it is, and I think is something that's going to be its downfall slightly, is the fact that there is graffiti on it. Not a lot of people consider graffiti as something especially parents, I imagine, as something that their kids probably want to go and get inspired to go and do in their teenhood or even in their adulthood. So I can see this being a conflict for parents a bit, but overall, I think this is a great step forward in the sense of Lionel trying to be more interactive with kids and also trying to make more modern products. A fire set, something more active, and yet again, another MTH reissue alert. Lionel is official. Lionel has gotten the fire station that MTH was proud of making with the sounds, motion, and such like that. So I think that'll be exciting to see in the future once it comes out and see what kind of fun features and sound stuff that Lionel makes. More standard sets, an army set, why not? And then new Line Chief locomotives for those who cannot afford the full-scale stuff or even the Line Chief Plus 2.0. And as you can see, Lionel also did get the 44-tonner set tooling from MTH. And as you can see, they're making a whole lot of different versions, such as a Ford, Marine version, Santa Fe, Pennsy, and Amtrak. So if you have a small yard and want a 44-tonner, there you go. Dash 8s, pretty nice. And also U-boats, so why not? New products as well. We have some more bumper trolleys, and Lionel yet again is getting more creative with their lighting technology. In this case, it's coming from the trolley itself. More themed stuff such as Batman, Looney Tunes, Angela Trotta Thomas. In this case, they have added 2 more boxcars to the collection, a beautiful 400E, and also the original New York Central F3s. And then for boxcars, again for themed in the sense of Ford and Chevy, we have 2 new boxcars. One being the Ford Mustang, which I am probably going to get because I love Mustangs. Sorry, Chevy fans. And then also we have a Chevy Camaro boxcar. So if you drive a classic Mustang or a classic Camaro and you want to have something in the train world to reflect onto that, here you go. More beer cars and also Wings of Angels series of boxcars if you collect those. Military boxcars to honor those who served in the past wars and current wars. More presidential cars, which I know are quite popular. And actually here is the Great Locomotive Chase boxcar I was talking about. Great boxcar. Personalized boxcars, they've added a couple more to their wide selection. And then we get into the Christmas stuff. Usual standard stuff. Lionel has added a new Polar Express water tower, which I think for those who wants it would be good. A Polar Express scale, do note scale, end of door boxcar, and reindeer, I say in parentheses, Vision Line baggage or reindeer car, which I think that would be fun to see in the future. Future, with all the sounds that Lionel's been getting quite creative with. Standard stuff and the traditional O-gauge lineup of passenger cars. New freight cars, such as the aquarium car with new graphics, a new box car to add to your collection, not bay window, porthole caboose, so if you want to add your freight train a little bit more buildings, figures, always have to have figures. Disney stuff, the only new thing I could see here would be the porthole caboose, which is nice. Some more Christmas sets. And then also we have a Line Chief Plus 2.0 Doodlebug and Light Pacific this go around. And also I see some more MTH tooling here as well, such as a Christmas tree flat car, which I remember MTH was very, very heavy on their Christmas stuff. Here you can see we have the 2022 Christmas box car, both music and standard, which I think this year look pretty good. A Christmas North Pole Central. It's been a while since we've seen some of those. End of door box car and reindeer car. I think those will go quite well. Also, Lionel's bringing back yet again their coaling depot, which in this case is actually going to be built instead of being a kit with lights and plug and play. I'm tempted to get one of those, not the Christmas version, but the normal version, which, as you can see, more buildings, more MTH tooling, more water towers, this time with this one in this case having a stick-on customizable graffiti and such. Donut shop, I could see that being popular for urban areas. A normal transfer station. Some Western buildings, which I can see going well for those who modeled the late 19th century, early 20th century, in this case, Sheriff Headquarters building, and a Western Mercantile building, which I think is quite funny. And then a private investigation building, Farnham Detective Agency. I thought that was quite cool. But this over here is the coaling station. I think I might go and replace the one that I have right now due to it being complete and also it having lights. I really do like it, and the Coal Country Mining Company is quite a nice name, I think. More buildings, similar stuff that we saw from the last catalog and the catalog before that, such as the Sergeant Stumpy's Red, White, and Boom fireworks store, which those should be arriving in sometime soon. Cowan Towing, I know those have been shipped. The Area 51 water tower and elevated oil tank, I know as well. And then right at the end, we get into the track and accessory stuff, which is all the standard stuff that you would expect from Lionel. Transformers. And then we get to, I'll just skip ahead towards the end. Here you can also see we have a special run offer for the TCA, if I remember correctly, or the LCCA. I believe it is the TCA, if I remember correctly. Mountain Man Moonshine. I nearly got that since I'm modeling the Great Smoky Mountains, Appalachia, but it's just a little bit too cheesy for me. And then for the American Flyer catalog, I'm not going to go over it this video, nor do I think I'm going to do a video on it overall, since really that there's not too much new stuff in there. I will say there is a new Y3 coming up in the American Flyer catalog, and a few other cool things in there. HO, haven't seen a new HO catalog yet, so I'll probably expect that when the Volume 2 comes out, and then Ready to Play, not too interested about that. Battery operated stuff, yeah, not too interested about that either. But yeah, that is the Volume 1 2 catalog, excuse me. And I think overall it is quite a good introduction to what 2022 might look like. There was a lot of reissues, which I was actually quite surprised about, like the Berkshires, and also a few things that I'm actually quite happy were confirmed, such as the Base 3 Cab 3 system. And I think this catalog will go quite well. I do think there are going to be a few, if not a handful, of cancellations, considering how many what if paint schemes Lionel has made. I think they are expecting that, so because since they've made so many what if paint schemes, they're hoping they'll get enough pre-orders to make them. But if not, they at least have enough other versions of the same locomotive to go and actually make it and not cancel that locomotive overall. The Class A's, I am on the fence of pre-ordering. I have just paid for the Santa Fe 210-10-2s, and having to go and send it back right out of the box and it be messed up, I am a bit iffy on going and pre-ordering a high-dollar locomotive again and it coming in and the board being fried. And also, on top of that, I have another pre-order from the previous catalog, the 2021 Volume 2, that also needs to be paid for as well. So, I do not know if I'm going to get a Class A. I may be able to do a review on one if I get my hands a hold of one, but I am not completely sure. But anyway, I hope you liked this little, well, actually quite long, one-all preview through the whole catalog. And I hope my video was able to actually help you finalize maybe a future pre-order, get to see what the catalog is all about if you weren't able to go and see it online, or even able to get to see it in your hand, and also being able to see it all in one fatal swoop, so to speak, since Lionel has separated the traditional side of things to the scale side. But anyway, my name is TradeMaster04, and I'll be seeing you next time.